Hello, my name is Len David Livesey, and this is Knowledge from Beyond. And we have a very good show for you. You know, I always have very good shows for you. But today we're talking about giants, and more giants. So we're going to be showing a lot of giants today and talking a lot of things. And I have a lot of pictures of giants. But before we can even get started, what we need to do is we're going to move the name back there so people can actually see the pictures. So I hate my name not being there, Knowledge from Beyond, but it will be back later. But let's get this slideshow ready so we can actually see the giants. Okay. Now, this is a lot of giants. You can say these are real pictures, these are fake pictures, people made them up. We can go there, but you know me. I always like to go back to the beginning. And remember, while we're doing this, you can also have comments, and I will comment. I never get a lot of comments on my broadcast, but I am here and I will answer questions. I say hello to you too. Okay. But anyway, let's go and get started. So, I always like to go back to the beginning. How far back are we going to go? To the 30s, to the 50s, back to the 1800s, back to the medieval period? No, we're going all the way back to the Bible. We're going all the way back to the Anunnaki. Again, we're always back to the Anunnaki, those who came down. And most people believe that the giants are just something that existed thousands of years ago, but that's not what the Bible says. So we're going to be talking the Bible. We're going to be quoting some of the Bible. And this is what the Bible talk about. So we have to review for those who maybe don't pick up that book as much as they should pick up that book. The Bible says that, and we're going not only to the Bible, we're mixing things. We're going by the Bible, the book of Enoch. We're even putting there a little bit of the book of Enki and the other books. Because you remember when El left, he appointed 600 watchers to watch over the earth. We still don't know why the earth needed to be watched over. We still don't understand that. But of those 600 watchers, in the book of Enoch, it go into great detail about how 200 of them conspired to come down because they saw that the women of the earth was fair. Okay. And what do fair means? Light skin with dark hair. Okay. And that is what they like. And they conspired and they chose a leader among them and they came down. Okay. And they took all the women they wanted. They mated with them and giants was born. Okay. And it's then when you go back to the big book of Enoch, it goes even further to say that after these they sinned against women. They also sinned against bird, reptiles, insect, and fish. We're not going there today, but that makes my hand shake. But anyway, we're talking about these giants. Now, most people that read the Bible will say, well, that was back before the flood. Lynn, all the giants got destroyed at the flood. You know that. All these pictures are totally fake. There is no giants today. The Bible says that giants was in those days and beyond. In the book of Revelations, it says that the last days will be like the days of Noah. They're here. They don't like to be on TV, but people see them. Not only today. That's the reason I'm showing pictures that was taken today, back in the 50s and the 30s and the 1800s, drawings from the Middle Ages. People been seeing things. They've been talking about these things. There's legends of these things. And they have always been here. They have always been among us. Okay. But Lynn, none of my neighbors are giants. Okay. So I don't really believe in giants, Lynn, because if there was giant people, one of my neighbors would be giants. Do you know that there's people that only 3, 4 feet tall? How many of your neighbors are 3, 4 feet tall? Okay. People range in size from very, very small to extremely large. Okay. And that's one thing when, I live on the Mexican border, that a lot of people know. And here you don't see a lot of very tall people. If you're 6 feet tall here, you're tall. But we have people here that are, not everybody, but you see people sometimes walking around, a lady with her kid, and the lady is only 4 foot tall. You get what I'm saying? And sometimes you see the husband, the kid, and the whole family, and they're all down there. Okay. And if they was in a lot of places, they would be considered, everybody would be staring. In the valley, it's not that big of a deal. Okay. But in the valley, if you're 7 feet tall, people will stare at you. In a lot of places in America, if you're that tall, people is no big deal. But basically, people stay in their area and people stay around. Now, these giant people have always been here, but they don't want to be in the circus. So they don't really, they really try to stay out of the limelight. But as you can see, these giant people vary. Some of them are considered giants because they're 8, 9 feet tall. Some of these people are 12, 15 feet tall. I do not know. In biblical times, they talk about there was giants that was 30, 40, 50 feet tall. We don't know if that's true or not. Maybe there's still giants alive that is that size today. That guy looks pretty big. I would say he's what, 15 feet, 12 feet? Okay. So is this just paintings and drawings and things that you collected and all this weird stuff, Lynn? You don't have any proof. I do have proof. It's been written up. So that's what we're going to talk about. Okay. So where do the thing about modern giants come from? We all know about the Bible and this and that, and we all know about the Bible. King, when the Israelites went into the promised land, it was King Og, and he was, so big and everything. And we have discovered giant books. You should see the books in the Prague Library. Look that up. In the Prague Library, they have books, reading books that are, some of these books are 5 feet, 6 feet in height. Some of these books weigh hundreds of pounds. That's one of them. They have a collection of them. Why would you create books that we can't even pick up? Turning the pages would be hard unless you're a big person. All around the world, they got weapons and things and swords, which to us, we couldn't even pick up. So they just say, there was commemorative. They're not real. They're, because nobody could pick up a sword that was that big or that thing. But there are people that are that size. So when people first came to we're going to talk the easy part first before I start scaring people. When people first came to the new land, the new world, we all heard that story about Columbus coming to America and discovering America. We all know that's a bunch of malarkey. But anyway, we're skipping past that. When the people first came here, especially when people started moving into the Ohio Valley and moving out west, their stories about people saw things. And they talked to the Indians. And this is where they first heard the Indian myths about these giants. Okay. And one thing in the Ohio Valley and goes into as people moved out west, especially along St. Louis, the Mississippi River, there was all these thousands of Indian mounds. And they started to, today, if you touch one of those Indian mounds, you're in big trouble. Okay. But back in the good old days, they was doing everything. They was discovering all kind of giant things in those Indian mounds. Some of those times they found giant bones and giant this. And all kind of stuff. And it was written in local newspapers back in the 1800s and all kind of stuff. And then today, nobody knows what happened to those discoveries. Okay. And Ohio, where I'm from, there's some of these Indian mounds are so big. Outside of Dayton, Ohio, there's an Indian mound that they put a power plant on top of the Indian mound. That's how big it is. But there's all kind of stories about what they found in those mounds. Not only there, but all over the world in Europe. They found all kind of stuff. But right now we're concentrating on the United States. Here's another one of these giant books. Now, you might say those Indians was just into legend. Because Indians, what did the Indians have to say about the giants? The Indians was always talk about, to the Indians, America is called Turtle Island. They considered the America to be an island. And the Indians talked about when they first crossed into Turtle Island was inhabited by giants with red hair. And the giants and the Indians first got along. But as the Indians kept, increasing in number, tension came between the giants and the Indians. And the Indians started to fight the giants started to fight the Indians. And they would eat them. Okay. And kill them. And they talk about how they would stack their body into giant piles. Okay. But the Indians started to fight back. And it talked about how the Indians pushed them. Look at that. That's a picture of the Prague Library right there. Look at those giant books. Why would you make a book like that if I guess you did. They didn't have nothing better to do hundreds of years ago. Okay. But they pushed them back into their caves. And they didn't believe that. Probably smoking a little bit of too much peyote and everything. But now they have discovered in caves the skeletal remains of some of these skeletal remains are really huge. 7, 8, 12, 15 feet. And some of them still have remains of their hair. And when is red. Okay. Maybe there's something to these myths. See, the Indians didn't have, Encyclopedia Britannica and everything. They had something called an oral history. But oral histories was not only in America, it was in Africa, even in a lot of places, because written history didn't start. Look, those are Egyptians. Written history didn't start until 6,000 years ago. People like me and you have been walking around for at least 100,000 years. And in pictures all over the world, you get very disturbing pictures like that. And again, let's go back to that book you're supposed to be reading again, the Bible. It talked about, the giants was the men of renown. Okay. What do renown mean? The people of legend. Look at that skull. See, we hear stories about that's an oversized human skull, but it only got one eye. And what's strange about that skull, that is the size, they can tell by the teeth that that's a full-sized human being. But it wasn't human like us because the head is a lot bigger than ours, but it only got one eye. And then we got all these Greek legends and other things about these people with only one eye. And we believed that all those stories was fake. These tall people are everywhere. In giants, they have these little things they call, they have like two stones this way with a rock on the top, and they call those can be found all the way across Europe. They don't bother those because they say those are where giants are buried. Okay, you get what I'm saying? And there's stories about giants, and look at that one. That's supposed to be one that was found along the down in the St. Louis area. Okay. St. Louis had a lot of Indian mounds that don't exist anymore, but they had a lot of giant Indian mounds. They destroyed them all. And in the case of destroying them all, they found a lot of weird stuff. Even in the Smithsonian Institute, in the Smithsonian, they wrote up about when they first went into the Grand Canyon, how they found a lot of weird stuff. Okay. Somebody's mentioned about mermaids. We're not talking mermaids today. Maybe we can talk about that another day. But mermaids, that's a great subject. Yeah, we need to talk about mermaids. But these are some fantastic pictures. Let's talk about somebody else. Magellan. I was telling someone about this. They didn't know who Magellan is. I said, you know about Magellan, right? They went, no, was he a football player? You need to go back to school. But Magellan was the first European. It's not real history unless a European does it. But he was the first one to travel around the world. Because remember, Columbus didn't come to America looking for America. He was looking for India. That's why the Indians are called Indians, because he thought he was in India. So they thought that, this land he discovered was just a piece of land stuck in between on the way to India. So Magellan was trying to still find that route to India. So he went all the way to South America, went all the way around, and then crossed. And he finally got to India, but oh my gosh, hell of a ride. Okay. Then he had to go all the way around Africa to get back to Europe. But when he crossed into South America, he reported in his log that he logged everything he saw, that at the tip of South America, Patagonia, that was the land of the giants. And they even got off their ship and met with the peaceful giants at the tip of South America. A lot of people believe his books, his logbook, because he was the first one to go to the Hawaiian Islands and the first one here and the first one there. They believe all of those stories about all of his logs. But when he said about the peaceful giants at the tip of South America, that was that night that he was probably on drugs, or you understand what I'm saying, don't you? See, you only believe people when they write what you want them to write. So all the journals before and after that one is real. But that one, now he must have been high on something. Okay. But that's what he wrote in his book, that the tip of South America was the land of the giants. And the Indians in South America knew that too. Okay. You go there now, but you don't see any giants. But again, there's some, this in Northern Europe, look what they found. But those are just ceremonial axes. There was never anybody that carried axes that big. But in northern countries, there's legends about giants carrying axes and how they would kill people with their giant axes. And then we discovered giant axes. But it's just a myth. The giants must have carried that. In India, in Saudi Arabia, in a lot of places, you have these footprints. These footprints are not human. It's not like somebody made a human footprint and made it bigger. If you look at the foot, the way the foot is designed, that is a different foot than ours. These Indians, these giants, a lot of them had flat feet. Their feet was not like ours. They didn't have an arch. And this same foot pattern that people find in India and several other places, they must have went all over the world and used the same pattern because they're the same. They're just different sizes. Now this guy has been written. He's existed in America back in the 50s. This guy was written up in a lot of magazines. A lot of these, this thing is not, it's not fake. It's real. Somebody's talking David and Goliath. Some people talking about a lot of things. Okay. This stuff is not fake. It is actually real. That's one of those giant footprints. Now, for a footprint to turn into rock, if you believe in science, that's going to take a hell of a long time. So that wasn't made like 5, 10 years ago, 100 years ago. You're talking thousands of years ago for a footprint to turn into hard stone. And we have found those everywhere. Now, there's more of a giant, another super giant footprint in India. And they're worshiping the footprint because they believe that is the footprint of God. Okay. I didn't say that, so don't be sending me any hate mail. Okay. I didn't say that. Okay. The Bible says it's the men of renown. So they're worshiping the men of renown. Okay. You know. And the men of renown, in case you don't know, is what the god myths is all about. Thor and in Apollo and all of them, those are the men of renown. That's the reason the god myths are all over the world. But these people, look at that girl. She doesn't look 500 years old, 1,000 years old. That picture wasn't taken back in 1724 or back in biblical days. These are modern pictures. Oh, but these people are still here. They just don't put themselves on CNN. I guess they're into minding their own business. So you would say, but Lit, if these people really exist, where are they? That is something we're going to spend a little time talking about. Something that seems to be very disturbing. Because remember, Magellan said he will, only at the tip of South America was there giants. But in Europe, they talk about fighting giants. And in the days of, the medieval time, they talked about there were giants also. Okay. And a lot of these people, the knights would fight dragons and they would fight giants and they would fight all kind of things. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But throughout Europe, they have a name for the giants, which you never heard of. In Europe, they say all the giants come from a land called Tartar. And they're called Tartarans. Okay. Is that the Tartaran from Tartar? I don't have such idea. But Tartar was actually a civilization which you don't know about. For some reason, it's not in the history book, the Kingdom of Tartar. Look that up, giants, Tartar, or Tartaran giants. And you will be surprised where they show where Tartar used to be located. Tartar was a kingdom that took half of Russia, half of China, and extended all of Siberia going up that way, was the kingdom of Tartar. And Tartar existed up until probably the late 1700s, early 1800s, when the kingdom of Tartar fell and collapsed. How come it's not in no history books? How come no one knows about this land of Tartar? But Tartar is known for some very weird things. Okay. But the one thing we're going to talk about now is maps that show the Empire of Tartar. We recognize a lot of those maps because we recognize, oh, okay, they controlled half of Russia, okay, the top part of China, okay, and Mongolia, that was part of Tartar. We understand that, okay, and all of this is for. But when you look at their map, the rest of the map look the same. But what is weird about Tartar maps is, you know, everyone knows what the top of Russia looks like. At the top of Russia, you got the top of Russia, and then you have nothing above there because you have ocean, frozen ocean. We all know that, right? But according to Tartar's maps, their kingdom existed far beyond the shore of the top of Russia. And they're showing land masses going beyond Siberia, large land masses. Were they just crazy? Were they? And there's people that talk about that hyperbole was a part of Tartar. So, are these maps talk about that the Tartar range from there and their empire stretched into the hollow earth? Is that why they're showing all this land above? And even on some of their maps, they show, I don't know how they would do this. Well, because they was around, as I said, up until like 150 years ago. They show North America. They show with the colonies where the colonists was, we was only along the East Coast. They show America, Canada, but then they show a lot of land above the tip of Canada and Greenland that we don't know about today. All of that is shown as part of the land of Tartar. Are these people that live beyond the north wind? Are these giants that live inside the earth? Is that the land of Tartar? Is that the reason nobody to know about the land of Tartar that existed, that was destroyed and pushed back? Okay. Most people just know that, Russia pushed, kicked out, started, and they kept going west. And slowly, through Peter the Great and all of them, they conquered all of what we call Russia today. But what they conquered was the land of Tartar. And why are the giants called Tartarans? And when you start looking into that, we're going to do a podcast later on about Tartarans if I don't get struck by lightning first. Because Tartar shows suits of armor, Tartar in suits of armor that look a lot like, and Tartar stuff look exactly like stuff that you see in Flash Gordon. If you remember the old Flash Gordon movies, a lot of Tartar buildings and things, and their suits of armor, and Tartar supposedly had beam weapons and all kind of technology that we don't have today. And this stuff was written about in the 1800s. Oh, about Tartarin guns that fire light beams instead of uh, projectiles. Why would you write about that in the 1800s? That stuff didn't exist in the 1800s. How can you be in the newspaper? Is there things we don't know about? And throughout all of Europe, you used to have these giant buildings that was super huge. Okay. That was made, that had doors, all these buildings was humongously big. Those buildings are Tartar architecture, or what they call Hyperborean architecture. Look those two words up. They will show you buildings that when we walk in some of those buildings that was built all throughout Asia, I mean Europe. So we was like ants in some of these buildings. Why was they making those giant buildings unless there was people like those behind on the screen right now? And how come Tartar is not on any map? We show ancient kingdoms all the time that don't exist anymore. No map shows talk about Tartar. Look that up. And Tartarians, and Tartarian giants, and Tartarian architecture, and Hyperborean architecture, and Tartarian giants. And oh my gosh, my hands are shaking. Okay. I don't have how to explain this. But when you look up the word Tartians, and you can Google the word Tartians in America, and they start showing you very tall people like that lady. That's how I got some of these pictures. Are these Tartarians in America? Is that lady a Tartarian? I don't have any answers. I just think this is weird. We all thought this was all fairy tales. That lady is not a fairy tale. These people are everywhere. But if you Google them, they're listed as Tartarian giants. Why are they called Tartarian giants? Okay. And the people of Tartia, of Tartians, was considered. They even got pictures of them in the 1700s. They always showed them as being giant and regular people being very small. Was the land of Tarta or Tartians? Were they giant people? Was it a kingdom of giants? I'm not saying nothing. I'm just asking some weird questions. You can Google it yourself. Remember, I don't talk crazy. I don't talk where you can look up everything I say. But a lot of this stuff is very, very weird and very, very strange. And how come we don't have any of this on in our museums? And every time they discover something like this, magically it disappears. Would you like to date one of these people? I don't know. But if there are tall people on the planet, it's no big deal. Why do they have to hide this from us? What's the big deal? If we find out that there's people 8, 10 feet tall, will we actually commit mass suicide if we found out? See, this is what doesn't make any sense. We know in the Bible, and this is not only Bible stories. In all the books, you can go to Hindu texts and all kind of books. They talk about a long time ago these giant beings exist, and some of these talk about giant beings in almost recent times. They talk about them not too long ago. Why must they keep everything a secret from us? What's the point? Are we that dumb and stupid that they believe that if they tell us about UFOs, they tell us about anything? Look at these pictures of long time ago. See, the giants were the rulers. And look how they got the regular people. They're stepping on top of one of them. That's not too good. I don't think they're going to have a nice day for some reason. I think they're in very big trouble. But let's go back. I'm not going to say nothing about that picture. I might get in trouble. But anyway, let's go back. Remember, we was created by the Anunnaki, as I keep talking about over and over and over again. Okay. The Anunnaki, when they came here, the old ones was here. Leather skin and clover feet, the dinosaurs. They worked with them until the old ones blasphemed against God and was uh, exterminated from the outside of the earth and driven into their underground cave. Now look at that picture. That doesn't seem like thousands of years ago. Let's blow this one up. They got Japanese flags. This is a picture of before World War II. I would hate to come across him. This is not very nice. These beings were everywhere. Okay. There he is again. Let's blow this up. That is awesome. And there's a Japanese flag. That is not 5,000 years ago. Now, we was talking about when we was created. After the ozone was destroyed and the Anunnaki refused to work because the work was very hard, they created the new ones. They took a primitive ape-like creature. I guess we talked about the Indians fighting the giants. We talked about that before. This is a picture from Mexico. I guess that one didn't win. I guess they're going to burn his body. Look how big he is compared to the Indians that's dragging him. But anyway, when they made us, as the Bible says, we was made in God's image. And they was trying to get this primitive uh, primitive ape type creature to learn them how to do simple work, but they couldn't get the hands to be straight until they put it in one of their women, and then the hands came out straight and it could speak, and that was called the Alpha or the Adam. Okay. And when they took the Adam back to their home planet, they said it looked just like one of them, except of a smaller status. It was smallest stature. See, we was made a lot smaller than they are, because we was just created as a worker race. And that's the reason in a lot of these pictures, it shows that the giants are the ones who are the rulers, the ones in charge. We are the workers. And you can see that these pictures come from all over the world. They're just not American pictures or Chinese pictures or whatever. These are pictures from all kind of races all over the world. But why do they need to hide this from us? But I just went through over the years, I've been collecting my pictures, but there's thousands of pictures. But what you're looking at now is just 100 pictures that I have. I could have showed another 100, but I think it proves the point is that these is not of biblical times or long time ago. They are still here. Look, this picture was not taken thousands of years ago. Okay. So, I think, where are we going with this subject? Remember, the title is Giant, Giants, and More Giants. Remember, I told you in the future, we will all live as one man, alien, giants, reptilians. Okay, you get what I'm saying, don't you? Everybody's coming out of the closet. Okay. Nobody's staying on site. See, maybe those people, just like blacks, used to stay on their side of the railroad track. Nobody's going to stay on their side of the railroad track in the future. So in the future, you might have not only black neighbors and Hispanic neighbors and Oriental neighbors, you might have a giant neighbor. You might have that person from Reticuli down the street. It's going to be a whole new world because this is why they're slowly preparing us. We're going to all be together as one. And I'm not going to tell you that all these giants are peaceful. Most people have probably heard about the one they ran across in Afghanistan. Okay. They ended up killing him, but it took a lot. We lost a lot of troops to that guy. He was very, very aggressive, very big, and semi cannibalistic. Okay. There's a picture of him coming up. But this is incredible. These pictures from all over the world. But why do they need to hide this from us? And according to a lot of books, like the guy behind me, you see what he's carrying, a building column. This is how a lot of the great things was built a long time ago. Okay. They would employ the services, I guess, for a lot of things. Okay. So if you don't believe my pictures, you can go and do your own research. But giants are alive. Maybe we're again live, as the Bible says, in the end times, it will be like the days of Noah. The giants are out and they're walking around. They are doing their thing. They don't want to be freaks. So they're not walking up and down the street. So we can all stare at them and throw rock eggs at them. But they do have their own culture and civilization and whatever. I don't know what giant high school would be like, or I guess they do their own thing. They hang around their own people, just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? But that is the point of this show. Giants did exist a long time ago, and they do exist now, and they're probably going to exist in the future. Okay. And we are going to share the world. These are some of these ancient giants. This is from the Middle East. And they have discovered these giant skeletons everywhere because of their bone density. Their bones take forever to break down. That's the reason we come across these giant skeletal remains all over the world. Okay. Because their bones are just like the bones of dinosaurs. They're just very big and very hard. Okay. But this is very, very fascinating. So, what I want you to do is to do your research. I want you to look into this stuff. I want you to know. No, this is not going to pay your electric bill, but this is called enlightenment. We need to know what is going on around us. We need to brighten our mind, and a lot of things, fact is stranger than fiction. And a lot of things that we think about is fiction is actually not fiction. So, where are they finding a lot of these things in America today? A lot of these things are found in deserts. Okay. Because the desert, because of the dryness, it preserves the bones very well. And a lot of deserts, for some reason, when you start digging in a lot of deserts, like in Death Valley, you start coming across a lot of strange remains of things. Because for some reason, we don't, some people believe that, and we have talked about this before, maybe there was nuclear war in the past. But in these deserts is where, the population centers used to be thousands of years ago. Maybe our great cities will be deserts thousands of years from now, too. Maybe we just deplete the soil to that point. Okay. But these are some fascinating pictures. So I'm letting the pictures do the talking. Look at this. This giant is so huge. You think he's holding a cat, but he's holding a lion. To be so big, where a full grown lion with a mane looks like a cat. And he got 6 fingers on his hand. This is a statue in that was found in Iraq. The size some of these creatures. See, we would be down here. Look. This is the scale that we have found of these creatures all over the world. So, do anyone have any questions or comments, or is somebody's going to say, "Lynn, I don't believe this. This is all make believe. This is all fairy tale." You know, maybe it's easier. Look at the size of that shoe. Maybe it's easier to believe that, maybe if they did tell us about giants, we all would jump off a cliff or something. Maybe that's why they don't want to tell us about UFOs or giants or about anything, because they think we're too dumb and too stupid. But I believe we are ready. We need to be told about what is going on around us. We need to know about the real history of man, not the fictional history of man that they want to teach us. There's some strange footprints in Texas. In Texas, there's some footprints of dinosaur footprints and man footprints walking right next to each other. According to science, that's impossible. Look that up. A lot of very strange things. So, I'm going to try to continue to wet your whistle. I don't get millions of views because a lot of things I talk about, this is not, I'm not here telling your fortune or how you're going to meet some guy tomorrow or you're going to be rich or everything. I'm trying to tell you about things to enlighten your mind. And the Bible says that in the end there will be an absence of in the word. Okay. And I believe that's true because today nobody cares. Nobody cares about nothing. We have our phone, which is, we don't have to go to the Louvre or to the British Museum for knowledge or go to the museum in Cairo, Egypt. Everything is in your hand. And what do we use it for? Oh, to play video games. I'm not doing video games. I'm still a Gnostic. And I want to know. The definition of a Gnostic is want to know. The only thing that separates us from them is knowledge and everlasting life. I want to know. I'm not afraid to open my eyes. Okay. I want to know the real history because if you don't know your future, then you don't know your past. So, look some things up, and you will be surprised. If you want to see some weird looking stuff, as I said, check out these giant books. There's lots of videos on that. That and these giant books are not only in Europe; they have found giant books all over the world. Okay. Look up, as I talked about before, about these giants in Patagonia. You can Google that. This is in India. Some of these statues. That's the same flat foot that you see the prints of. That is not a human foot like our foot. That foot is different from ours. It's wide and flat. Giants' feet, I guess because of their weight, their foot is designed differently than ours. And just think if there was really people that big that you could walk on the feet and we would just be that tiny. Awesome. So we have a few more minutes. I'm going to let the video play. If anyone have any questions or anything or things that they would like to talk about, but going into Halloween, as I said, we're going to, we're still going to get back into our Halloween stuff. We did several podcasts already on Halloween, but we try to mix it up. I try to. And show you things that, to enlighten you and, But myself, I would like to, if there is a land of the giants, I don't know. I'm not a giant myself. I'm only 5'11". And if I met somebody 12, 13, the largest person I ever saw, once I was on vacation, I saw this guy. And maybe he was a basketball player, was a black guy, but he must have been at least 7'2" or 7'3". And he was staying in the hotel I was in. And he would be eating in the morning, his breakfast in the morning, but he was really tall. That's the tallest person I ever seen, around 7 feet. Oh, and I seen another one a few years ago. Yeah, walking around, but never 12, 15 feet. I don't know if I wouldn't commit suicide if I did, but I would like to, if maybe I don't know, but as I said, maybe they have their own society, and where they live in giant houses, and they just do their own giant thing. You know what I'm saying? But you might say a lot of these pictures are fake and phony, but even if, you got to believe why the evidence around us is everywhere, is staggering. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast today. And I will continue to do my best to be on top of whatever is going out. But we're going to just take a few more minutes and enjoy a few more of these pictures before we run out of time. So, but I did a lot of research on this. It was not always easy to find all of these pictures, but I was able to find them. But they are still here. And I do not know, are these the descendants of the giants that was, I don't know. Are these giants related to the giants of thousands of years ago? Or does the height of man really vary that much? Okay. Look at these stairs in India. You see the little stairs for the people. is right here. And look at these stairs for giants. To walk down these stairs, you must be at least 20, 30 feet tall to go down these stairs. Our little stairs are right there. These are the human stairs. These stairs are massive, and they lead to a giant temple complex up at the top. The evidence is everywhere. Let me fast forward this so we can finish, so I can show you a few more wonderful pictures. This is how, this is the statue that was in Greece of a Zeus. Was he actually that big? I don't know. I never met him. But think of it. Think about this, the size. Here's these elongated heads that we hear about today. These are thousands of years old, but we, you know, there's a head that got the red hair. Remember, we talked about the Indians talk about their red hair giants and everything. And these are skulls that are a lot larger than ours. Look at that. Next picture. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I don't have to say nothing. You like the small one or the big one? I better be quiet. Oops, I'm trying to get this guy. That's a girl, a lady, a big lady. We're almost at the end. I think we have like 2, 3 minutes left. I want to get to the end of all the pictures. That lady must weigh at least 5, 6, 700 pounds. Look at that. Really massive. This is the land of Tartar. That's their Tartarin hats they're wearing. I think we're at the end, and we're out of time. I hope you enjoyed the slide presentations that I did today. I wanted the purpose of the slideshow was to show you that this is not myth. This is real. Okay. These people are still here. They just live maybe separate from us. But in the near future, we will all be together again. Okay. That is the point, to put the top back on the pyramid. Right now, the pyramid is, there's a gap between the pyramid and the top of the pyramid. They want to put the top back on the pyramid, where us and them will be together as one. The separation is quickly coming to an end. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Do some research. Don't believe what I told you. investigate yourself. My name is Len David Livesey. I'm your full spectrum Gnostic, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Join my Facebook page, listen to the other programs on the Spirit Realm Network. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. I'm out of here. Thank you.